7:22. Welcome back to the show. Lou and Jackie here, being joined by our good friend Michael Swanger. He's the publisher of the Iowa History Journal. We love it when the Iowa History Journal comes out, Jackie, because when it comes out, we know we're going to get a visit from Michael.
Absolutely, and truly learning some amazing history stories from all across the great state of Iowa. So thank you for joining us once again. Right off the cover, who are we looking at there?
We're looking at James Jordan. So good morning. Thank you, Lou, Jackie. Thanks for having me back. Appreciate it. We're looking at James Jordan, who could be considered the founding father of West Des Moines. And obviously we're going to talk a little bit more about James some more this morning in the new book that's out about him. But if it wasn't for him, we might not be sitting here. We might not be in the place that we're in.
At least not in West Des Moines.
At least not in West Des Moines as we know it. Exactly. And really, and we can... when you talk about James Jordan, you think about everything that he's done in terms of his name. His legacy is omnipresent still today, and that's why the headline that we put on there really rings true in terms of his visionary leadership and everything that he did. He's really one of the most influential leaders in Iowa's early statehood. He was here right before we became a state in 1846, and he was instrumental in bringing the railroad to Des Moines, helping create the insurance industry in Des Moines. He brought the capital from Iowa City to Des Moines. And then, of course, he helped bring the railroad to Valley Junction and helped create everything that's here today.
Wow.
And of course, the Jordan House, which he began to build 4 years after he moved here. And then he moved his family in the basement, I believe it was about a year afterwards, when they had that portion of it built. And the Jordan House, which is the home to the West Des Moines Historical Society and is also a museum, and it's on the National Register of Historic Places and on the Underground Railroad Network to Freedom. So it's his legacy is incredible. And then, of course, when everyone hears the Jordan name, they think of all the things in West Des Moines that you see the signs. There's Jordan Creek Town Center. There's Jordan Creek Parkway.
Maybe people haven't made that connection.
I was going to say, or maybe you didn't know.
Yeah,
That's what they called it.
Yeah.
Or the elementary school. There's a rich history there, and I think a lot of people miss that in West Des Moines because they think about it being such a fairly new community in that regard.
True.
But we really have a long and rich history here, and of course, everything he did to create and plat Valley Junction, historic Valley Junction. And that's, of course, the town that became West Des Moines. And it's important because this year, we're celebrating the 125th anniversary of West Des Moines and the 80th anniversary of its moniker when it changed its name in 1938 from Valley Junction to West Des Moines. So his story is obviously very important to West Des Moines. I think it's one that every West Des Moines resident should know. I think every school kid should know it as well. I think it's an important story. A lesson should be taught in schools. But he really speaks to a bigger audience in terms of everything he did for the state, and especially in Des Moines. So I don't want people to get the impression that it's just a West Des Moines-centric story. It really applies statewide, and he was one of the most important leaders early in Iowa.
And you hit it on the head with the Iowa History Journal. It's about learning those stories and doing it in a very fun way with the incredible writers that you utilize. But it's perfect for going into the school system as well and using it as a tool to teach the kids about our history.
It is, yes, and we love it when teachers use it and students use it, and we hear feedback from them. Of course, we'd like to see more of that. We get letters, calls, emails from parents, grandparents, sometimes who buy the magazine for their kids, their grandkids, so they can use it and utilize it. And it's in a lot of libraries. We're in a lot of city libraries too. And speaking to what you mentioned briefly about the writers that we have on board, you know, when we find someone who has a terrific knowledge of a subject, like in this instance with James Jordan, the author of the new book, the new James Jordan book that we're going to talk about, Louise Gately, with help from her editor, Jan Davison, that was a no-brainer to have them write the story for us because they know the subject better than anyone.
And that's what you do. You find the best writer for a certain subject.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was an easy assignment to make.
And we'll be talking more about that coming up, but we want to remind you of some other great stories that are in this latest edition, and you're continuing on with this series, part 3 of 3 of baseball.
Part 3 of 3, right. We're still playing baseball. I know everyone's thinking about football now. I'm still thinking about baseball.
It's still happening.
That's the game in our house. That's right. Part 3 by John Liepa, and our series is focused on the games early forays into Iowa, 1855 to 1875. We really kind of extend that timeline with this story. There's a picture of the Sioux City Cornhuskers who won a mythical championship against Cap Anson's Chicago White Stockings in, I believe, 1890. But this part of the series focuses on the game hitting the big cities of Des Moines and Sioux City, and a little bit of the struggle that took place here in Des Moines for it to take root. And then, of course, obviously the role that those towns have played in the game's maturation. So
absolutely.
Okay, so
lots
baseball
of fun
fans,
there.
you gotta have something in here just for them.
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
you're talking about also a gentleman that I had the honor of interviewing at one time, Ambassador Kenneth Quinn, who is just an incredible, incredible man. His story is in this latest edition.
Absolutely, I know he's a friend of the show, and he was kind enough to pitch a story to me earlier this year about the year 1980 and how it shaped 3 political dynasties. There's a picture of the late Governor Ray, and there's Ambassador Quinn on the far right. When he was working for the Department of State, he was on loan, quote unquote, to Governor Ray at that time. And he writes about how the 1980 caucus shaped 2 dynasties, the Bush family and the Kennedy family. And then, of course, he talks about now current president of China, Jinping, and his visits to Iowa along with his father many years ago. And he knew them when he knew the president when he was a vice president. So he talks about how events of that year shaped the world, because that visit in 1980 to Iowa was unprecedented. And what they did and what they learned in terms of they came here to learn about agriculture and what they took back with them to China. And then, of course, how the caucus shaped those 2 political dynasties, the Bush families, the Kennedy families. Right. And so it's a wonderful insight that only someone like he would have, having lived it, been there in the trenches, so to speak. And I was grateful to him for sharing that with us.
Now, the Iowa History Journal also has a feature that is really cool, people have been following along with, called What's in a Name?
What's in a Name,
and you tackle some of the questions surrounding some of the names of cities that are in Iowa, and you tackled one that has an interesting name.
It does. Montezuma, named after an Aztec emperor of all things, right? And Montezuma, you know, obviously was in the news recently with Molly Tibbetts, unfortunately, but this is their 150th anniversary, and I know that they just recently had a celebration to mark that. There's an early shot of Montezuma.
That's so cool.
And it's a city of monuments. If you've ever visited there, there are monuments throughout the town, and some of them are dedicated to military veterans and wars and things. So it's a fun town to visit, and I have to admit, our magazine is printed there at Sutherland Printing, which is a long-time family-owned business.
Really?
And they've been there for decades and decades. And so the first time I went out there to visit the printing plant, I had not seen the town on the monuments. I was wowed by all the monuments. I took some time afterwards to drive around and take a look and take some photos. There's a lot of history in that town.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we're talking back circa long time ago. I know that image was from 1928, but we're talking about emperors that they're named after from 1502
right
to 1520. That's incredible.
It is incredible. I mean, there's...
Who'd have thought that kind of rich history is surrounding a name of a town here in Iowa?
Exactly. And when you think about it too, and I know we've talked about this in the past when I've been on the names of towns and counties in Iowa, all those names go back centuries. And it's not just as current as some folks might think. So there's a reason behind all those names, and we delve a little bit into that with Montezuma. I don't want to give the whole thing away, but yeah, that's a part of it.
Well, how about you delve into where we can pick this bad boy up? If people are intrigued about all the stories they're hearing right now and want to learn more, maybe they need to make this part of their collection that they receive on a regular basis. How can they make that happen?
Well, they can visit their local Casey's or Hy-Vee here in town, Beaverdale Books. We're also at the Book Vault in Oskaloosa, but really the best way to get is to go online at iowahistoryjournal.com. You can buy all of our back issues, you can subscribe, or you can call us. We're happy to help. I answer the phone, and I love talking to readers and subscribers. I also like getting a lot of story ideas from them that way too.
Yeah.
So
I also have a great picture of Michael sitting in the Iowa's largest walnut rocking chair in the Amano colonies here. We can hold that up for you so you can see that. But happy birthday to you, by the way.
Thank you. That's very nice of you. That's nothing like celebrating a milestone birthday by enjoying a nice rocking chair.
There you go. Starting to say you're getting older, right?
I'm getting older. I kind of got my Clark Griswold on. There was a summer family day trip to the Amana.
And that's in the Amana colonies. I didn't know that.
It's in West Amana, exactly.
That's cool.
I feel like they have the largest of everything over there.
They do, don't they? Including the food, which is, as you know, is terrific.
All right,
Yeah,
we're
exactly.
not done. We're going to talk more about what we just got done discussing here in just a couple of moments. Don't go too far.